The alarms screamed before dawn, echoing through the high marble halls of the royal palace. Caleb Voss bolted upright from his corner in the janitor's closet, a mop in one hand and a bucket in the other. His stomach dropped. He knew the sound all too well. The hatchlings were at it again. He ran barefoot over the cold stone floor, water splashing from the bucket, and skidded around a corner. Broken cages littered the nursery, their locks twisted and scorched. A faint heat lingered in the air, like someone had breathed fire nearby. Caleb's pulse hammered in his ears as he caught a flicker of movement. Tiny wings, shimmering like wet jewels, darted under overturned crates. One hatchling tripped over a fallen cage, tumbling head over claws, then froze. Caleb crouched low, breathing fast, and whispered, "Hey, easy there." The creature's amber eyes blinked at him, wide and curious, but it didn't flee. Caleb's hand trembled as he reached forward, and in that instant the hatchling flinched and leapt, right into his lap. He yelped, almost dropping it, but held tight. The tiny dragon curled into a perfect circle, head resting against his forearm, its warm body vibrating with a soft purr. Caleb's mouth went dry. He had no idea why this happened, why the hatchlings, after escaping every cage, eluding every guard, kept choosing him. A shadow fell over the nursery. Caleb looked up to see the palace's main dragon, an adult with scales that gleamed like molten bronze, towering at the balcony's edge. Its roar rattled the windows and sent the smaller hatchling scrambling to nestle closer against him. Caleb froze, heart pounding, not sure if it would attack or merely observe. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, though his own voice shook. He adjusted his grip, keeping the hatchling snug and shielding it with his body. The dragon's eyes, sharp and intelligent, swept over the nursery, lingering on Caleb. A shiver ran down his spine. Somehow he knew it understood him. Somehow it was judging him. He glanced back at the chaos, overturned carts, scorch marks, and another hatchling darting toward the open doorway. Without thinking, Caleb leapt to his feet and sprinted, weaving around fallen furniture. "Come here," he shouted. The little dragon on his lap chirped, almost encouragingly. He reached out, and the runaway hatchling froze for just a moment, long enough for Caleb to scoop it up. Another one curled around his ankle, purring like a kitten. For a second, the nursery felt impossibly heavy and alive. Dragons, tiny and large, hissed and chirped, some glowing faintly in colors that shouldn't exist. Caleb's eyes widened. This wasn't just ordinary hatchlings. Something about them was different. Brighter, sharper, smarter. But in that moment he had no time to dwell. Every second he hesitated was another chance for them to vanish, or for someone to hurt them. Footsteps pounded behind him. Guards had arrived, armor clanking, expressions stern. "Step aside, janitor," one barked. Those creatures must be contained. Caleb didn't move. He held both hatchlings, his chest tight with tension. "No," he said, voice firm despite the fear. "You'll hurt them." The guards exchanged confused glances. One lunged forward with a net, but the hatchlings reacted instantly, jumping, flapping, and weaving between the swings. Caleb ducked, dragging one under a table, then the other clung to his shoulder. In seconds he realized something extraordinary. The hatchlings weren't just trusting him, they were following him. Every move he made, every gesture, seemed to calm them, even as chaos erupted around them. He ran toward the far corner, where a small alcove tucked beneath the nursery stairs offered shadow and warmth. Droplets of sweat ran down his forehead, but he grinned, a flicker of hope sparking in the panic. "This is it," he muttered, "our safe spot." He set the hatchlings down gently. One nestled into his lap, another curled beside him, and Caleb let out a shaky breath. For the first time that morning, there was a quiet in the room that felt alive but safe. A tiny victory. Then a sudden sharp crack echoed from the wall behind him. Caleb froze. His head snapped up. A faint glow pulsed from a seam in the marble, like something inside was awakening. The hatchling stiffened, ears twitching, eyes wide. Caleb's stomach lurched. Whatever had been buried there for centuries, hidden beneath the royal nursery walls, was stirring, and somehow, it was aware of him. The adult dragon's roar rolled again from above, louder this time, almost questioning. Caleb's heart raced. One choice could protect the hatchlings. One wrong move could unleash danger beyond anything he had imagined. And yet, for reasons he didn't understand, he knew he had to act. He tightened his grip, whispered to the hatchlings, and edged toward the glowing wall. The warmth of the dragons against him bolstered his courage. Somewhere deep inside he realized, this was only the beginning. Because what stirred behind the marble was not just a mystery, it was waiting. And now it had noticed him. Caleb pressed his back against the alcove wall, heart hammering as the hatchlings stirred around him. Their tiny bodies glowed faintly, casting eerie, shifting lights across the stone floor. He watched, fascinated and terrified, as one of the hatchlings lifted its head, eyes locking onto the marble seam. The glow throbbed in response like it recognized them. What are you?" Caleb whispered, voice barely audible. He reached out and the hatchling's tiny wing brushed his hand. Heat radiated from it, pulsing softly. A shiver ran through him. These weren't ordinary dragons. Something had changed them, awakened them. Before he could think further, a crash rang from the nursery entrance. Guards had cornered another hatchling, net in hand. Caleb's stomach clenched. He had to act fast. Without hesitation, he sprinted from his hiding spot, yelling, "Don't touch them!" The guards froze, surprised by the janitor's audacity. Caleb dove toward the trapped hatchling, scooping it into his arms. The little dragon curled against his chest, purring, and then, almost impossibly, it released a small burst of flame, just enough to scorch the edge of the net. The metal melted slightly, freeing the hatchling. "Run!" Caleb shouted, and they bolted. 2 more hatchlings joined, slipping past the distracted guards. Caleb led them through narrow corridors, ducking under chandeliers and leaping over fallen tapestries. Every movement, every sound, seemed to heighten the hatchlings' trust in him. They followed instinctively, their glow pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He paused for a breath in the servants' stairwell. One hatchling nestled in his lap, another clung to his shoulder. Caleb grinned, a mix of exhaustion and awe. Okay, maybe we can do this." But the calm didn't last. From above, a low rumble shook the steps. The adult dragon perched on the balcony shifted its massive wings, sending a gust that nearly knocked Caleb off balance. He ducked instinctively, feeling the air pressure press down like a physical weight. Caleb realized then, the palace wasn't designed for someone like him to move freely. Every corridor and stairway became a trap if the adult dragon decided to intervene. The hatchlings sensed it too. Their glow intensified, flickering between amber and gold. Caleb had an idea. He set one down gently, then another, whispering, "Follow me, careful, slow and steady." He led them into the storage wing, a place he knew well from years of cleaning. Crates, barrels and sacks provided hiding spaces, forcing the hatchlings to navigate through tight passages. Each successful dodge, each hatchling safely tucked behind a crate, felt like a small victory. Caleb's confidence grew. He realized something extraordinary: the hatchlings weren't just playful, they were intelligent enough to recognize strategy. They trusted him, yes, but they also understood danger. A sudden shriek startled him. One hatchling had slipped out of sight and darted toward the artifact's faint glow from the marble seam. Caleb sprinted after it, heart in his throat. The little dragon stood trembling before the glowing crack, wings flaring. Its tiny claws scraped the floor as it pounded the wall, drawing a faint pulse of light from inside. Caleb reached for it, speaking soothingly. It's okay." The hatchling curled into his lap again, its body vibrating like a small motor. The glow faded slightly, responding to their contact. Caleb felt a surge of awe. Somehow he was a part of this. They reacted not just to his presence but to his calmness, his courage, his choices. For the first time he understood why the hatchlings kept escaping. They weren't running from the palace, they were seeking him. Then came the sound of armor clanging and boots pounding on stone. The palace staff had regrouped, and this time they brought reinforcements. Caleb's pulse spiked. There were too many of them, and the hatchlings were small and vulnerable. If the guards tried to capture them by force, it would end badly. Caleb's mind raced. He couldn't fight a dozen trained guards, but maybe he didn't have to. He knelt, spreading his arms wide. The hatchlings leapt onto his lap, shoulders, even his arms, forming a living shield. Their soft warmth, their trust, and something deeper, the pulsing glow, formed a barrier no one expected. The first guard lunged, net swinging. The hatchlings hissed in unison. Flames flickered along the edges of the net, forcing him to jump back. Another guard shouted orders, but Caleb stepped forward calmly, almost casually, and the hatchlings responded by moving in perfect synchrony, blocking the path and retreating strategically. It was more than luck. Caleb realized he could communicate with them without words, through instinct and emotion. Every gesture mattered. Every choice he made shaped their response. Breathless, he backed toward the alcove near the glowing seam, the hatchlings at his side. He looked at the strange pulse emanating from the wall. The artifact inside must be influencing them somehow, making them smarter, more attuned. But what was it? And why had it chosen him as the anchor? The adult dragon's roar cut through the hall, shaking stones loose from the walls. Caleb froze, glance darting upward. The creature's eyes weren't angry, they were curious. Calculating. Waiting. And then it moved. Wings flared, it launched into the hall, descending rapidly toward the hatchlings and Caleb. Caleb felt the heat before he saw the shadow of its massive body. The hatchlings stiffened, their glow intensifying like warning signals. Caleb clutched them tighter. One wrong move and the adult dragon could crush them, or worse. But as the dragon landed, something unexpected happened. Instead of striking, it tilted its massive head, studying Caleb and the glowing hatchlings. Its roar became a low, questioning rumble. The entire hall held its breath. Caleb's pulse raced, but a strange calm settled in his chest. He understood, this was a test. And he couldn't fail. Then, from the seam in the marble, the glow flared violently, throwing shadows across the walls and the ceiling. Caleb froze, heart pounding as a faint whisper, almost human in tone, echoed from the crack, sending shivers down his spine. The hatchlings stiffened. Caleb knew in an instant, this was far bigger than escaping cages. Far bigger than protecting hatchlings. Something ancient and powerful had noticed him, and it was awake. Caleb's knees scraped against the stone floor as he edged closer to the glowing seam in the wall. The hatchlings huddled in his lap like living armor. Their tiny bodies pulsed with light, a rhythmic glow that seemed almost alive, reacting to his heartbeat. The whispering hum from the marble grew louder, soft but unmistakably intelligent, like it had a mind of its own. Caleb swallowed hard. He didn't know if it was danger or something else. He reached out with one hand, trembling, and touched the cool marble. The glow shifted under his fingers, spreading across the seam like liquid fire. The hatchlings chirped, hissing softly, but they didn't flee. Instead, they leaned into him, trusting him entirely. Caleb's chest tightened. Whatever this was, whatever power lay behind the wall, it had chosen to respond to him. And he couldn't ignore it. Okay, think, he muttered under his breath. He crouched lower, examining the seam, looking for a crack, a hidden latch, any way inside. His years of janitorial work had taught him to notice tiny details. Scratches, uneven edges, faint dust patterns. There. A tiny indentation, almost invisible at the corner. He pressed it. A section of the marble shifted silently, sliding inward to reveal a narrow cavity. Caleb's eyes widened. Inside, the glow pulsed stronger, bathing the hall in golden light. A faint warmth radiated from it, and Caleb felt a strange sense of calm mixed with awe. The cavity wasn't empty, it held a small, crystalline artifact. It hovered slightly, suspended without visible support, its surface etched with patterns that seemed alive, shifting and twisting under his gaze. The hatchlings chirped excitedly, nuzzling him. Caleb realized something astonishing. The artifact responded to them as well. Their light pulsed in rhythm with its glow. And when they moved closer to him, the artifact shimmered brighter, as if acknowledging the human presence. Caleb's mind raced. He looked back at the adult dragon perched on the balcony, watching silently. The massive creature didn't move, but its amber eyes glimmered with intelligence, almost approval. Caleb felt a surge of determination. He had to understand this. He had to protect these hatchlings and now, perhaps, protect something far older and far more powerful than anyone in the palace could imagine. Carefully, Caleb extended a hand toward the artifact. A warm pulse shot through his fingers, making his vision blur slightly. Images flashed in his mind, flashes of dragons, humans, a time before the palace, and voices speaking in a language he didn't understand. One image stayed longer, a tiny dragon hatching under a glowing crystal, the warmth of human hands guiding it. Caleb's heart skipped. Somehow this artifact had influenced the dragons for generations, amplifying their intelligence, empathy, and trust, but only in humans who showed courage and care. The realization hit him. This was why the hatchlings had always chosen him. He hadn't been just a lucky janitor. The artifact had sensed his heart, his choices, his determination to protect, to act when no one else would. A sudden crash startled him. One of the palace guards had climbed to the alcove above and now peered down, eyes wide in disbelief. "Janitor, what are you doing? Step away from that thing." Caleb's fingers tightened around a hatchling and he stood tall, facing the guard. "I'm keeping them safe," he said simply. His voice didn't waver, though his pulse raced. "These dragons, they trust me. And this isn't just a wall. It's something alive, something ancient. If you touch it, you could destroy everything." The guard hesitated. Caleb realized then that courage wasn't about strength, it was about conviction. His calm defiance, his care for the hatchlings, was making the artifact respond. He could feel it. The glow around the hatchlings pulsed faster, almost like a heartbeat, and the crystal shimmered, sending tendrils of light curling around Caleb and the hatchlings. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed from deep within the cavity, a voice, faint but unmistakable, speaking a single word in a tone that sent shivers down Caleb's spine. Protector. The hatchlings chirped and nuzzled him closer. Caleb froze. The artifact had chosen a word to describe him. Protector. Not janitor, not intruder, not caretaker, protector. The enormity of it crushed him for a moment. He was ordinary, a simple man from outside the royal palace, yet somehow fate had thrust this responsibility upon him. The adult dragon shifted, spreading its massive wings, causing a gust that scattered loose dust and lit the glowing hall in a dramatic flare. Caleb instinctively shielded the hatchlings, and in that instant, the artifact pulsed brighter than ever, sending a wave of warmth that made his skin tingle. The palace walls vibrated and a low hum filled the hall. Caleb realized the power here wasn't just for show, it was alive, aware, and choosing him as its ally. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. I won't fail, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. I'll protect them, all of them. A sudden, violent tremor shook the floor. Caleb stumbled, clutching the hatchlings as the marble seam cracked wider, the glow flaring like lightning trapped in stone. From the widening crack, a shadow stirred, larger than any hatchling, sharper in shape, with scales that glinted like silver. The hatchlings hissed in unison, curling into Caleb's arms. The artifact pulsed rapidly as if warning him. Caleb's mind raced. The palace, the guards, the dragons, they were all small pieces of a much larger puzzle. And whatever had just emerged from the crack, it was aware of him. It had recognized his courage, his care, and now it was testing him. He tightened his grip on the hatchlings, standing firm. Bring it on, he muttered, voice steady despite the fear thrumming in his chest. He knew one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what came next, he would not let harm touch the hatchlings. He would face it, protect them, and rise to the challenge because this was what humans did. They acted even when odds seemed impossible. And as the shadow shifted closer, its glowing eyes meeting his, Caleb understood the truth. This was only the beginning. The artifact, the hatchlings, the dragons, and now something far older than the palace itself, it had chosen him. And the choices he made next would shape not just their lives but something far greater. The shadow from the cracked wall loomed larger, twisting in the golden light of the artifact. Caleb's grip on the hatchlings tightened, their tiny claws digging into his arms as they hissed and flapped in alarm. The hall had become a storm of sound and color, glowing dragons, shimmering artifact, the low rumble of the adult dragon above, and the pounding of the palace guards scrambling to contain the chaos. Caleb's heart pounded. He had no weapons, no armor, no royal authority. Just instinct, courage, and a small army of dragons who trusted him. He took a deep breath and squared his shoulders. Okay, he muttered, voice firm. Time to protect them, no matter what. The shadow moved, revealing a hatchling-sized creature, but unlike any dragon Caleb had ever seen. Its scales were silver and jagged, eyes glowing with an intelligence that made his chest tighten. It stepped forward, wings spread, and the artifact pulsed in tandem, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Caleb realized in a cold rush of understanding. This wasn't an ordinary hatchling. It was a guardian of the artifact, a creature older and wiser than anything in the nursery, and it was testing him. Caleb crouched instinctively, placing the hatchlings between himself and the silver creature. He whispered, "It's okay, you're safe." The smallest hatchling curled in his lap, its glow steadying. The silver creature hissed and flicked its tail, its eyes darting between Caleb and the hatchlings. Then it lunged, not at him but at the nearest palace guard who had stepped too close. Flames flared and the guard leapt back, stumbling over a fallen crate. Caleb seized the moment. "Stay close. Don't panic," he barked, moving slowly, deliberately, using his body as a shield. The hatchlings instinctively followed, their glowing bodies weaving around him like a living barrier. Each movement was calculated, each step a message. They trusted him and he would not fail. The palace staff shouted orders, but their commands were useless against creatures that moved with intelligence beyond human comprehension. Caleb realized then that brute force could never contain these dragons. They needed guidance, patience, and courage. And he had all three. A sudden surge of energy blasted from the artifact, forcing Caleb to kneel as the hall trembled. Dust and loose stones fell around him. He closed his eyes, centering himself, and let his instincts guide him. The hatchlings responded instantly, clustering around his arms and shoulders, their tiny bodies pulsing in synchrony with the artifact's light. It was like a heartbeat, a rhythm connecting them all. The silver creature hissed again and stepped closer. Caleb held his ground, eyes locked on its glowing gaze. "I won't let you hurt them," he shouted. And then, in a bold move he barely understood himself, he reached out one hand toward it, not as a threat but as a gesture of trust. For a long moment nothing happened. Then slowly the creature lowered its wings, tilting its head as if studying him. The hatchlings chirped softly, echoing Caleb's heartbeat with their glow. The artifact pulsed brighter, almost approvingly, and the silver creature took a cautious step back. Caleb's breath came in short, sharp gasps. "It's okay, we can do this together," he whispered. Every instinct, every moment of courage had led to this point. He understood that protecting these hatchlings wasn't about dominance or strength, it was about trust, intelligence, and empathy. But the danger wasn't over. The adult dragon above let out a thunderous roar, wings flaring, creating gusts that knocked over crates and sent the hatchlings skittering. Caleb reacted instantly, shielding them with his body, speaking in a steady, calm voice. "Stay with me. Now." The hatchlings responded, curling into his arms, hissing and glowing, forming a radiant shield. Caleb could feel the artifact's energy humming through the air, almost as if it was lending him strength. He realized something incredible. He wasn't just guiding them, they were amplifying his courage, his determination, creating a bond that no force in the palace could break. Then came the final test. A blast of wind from the adult dragon's wings slammed into the floor, sending loose stone flying toward the hatchlings. Caleb reacted instantly, diving forward and rolling to shield them. One hatchling tumbled from his lap, wings fluttering frantically. Without thinking, Caleb scooped it up mid-roll, pressing it against his chest. The hatchling's glow flared brightly, and for a split second the silver creature and the adult dragon froze, watching. Caleb straightened, standing tall, sweat and dust streaking his face. He was trembling, exhausted but resolute. "You won't touch them. Not now. Not ever," he said firmly. The hatchlings chirped and curled closer, their warmth radiating through him. The artifact pulsed violently in response, light flaring and bathing the entire hall in golden brilliance. The palace staff froze, guards lowering their weapons instinctively. Even the adult dragon above tilted its massive head, wings folding slowly, as if acknowledging the human who had faced impossible odds and won, not with brute strength but with courage, intelligence, and heart. Caleb looked down at the hatchlings nestled in his arms, then at the glowing seam in the wall. A shiver ran through him. The silver creature had not retreated, it was watching, still assessing, waiting. Caleb realized that this confrontation was over, but the mystery was far from solved. The artifact, the hatchlings, the dragons, they were only the beginning. He whispered to the nearest hatchling, "We made it, but this isn't over." Its tiny eyes blinked at him, almost knowingly. Caleb's chest tightened. He knew the palace would never be the same, and neither would he. Something ancient and powerful had awakened, and it had noticed him. Then, from the deep shadows of the marble seam, a faint new pulse echoed, slower this time, deliberate, almost like a heartbeat. Caleb's pulse matched it instinctively. The glow shifted, forming a pattern he didn't recognize, and a whisper, soft but urgent, drifted through the hall. "Protector, choose wisely." Caleb froze, the weight of the words settling in. The artifact had acknowledged him, but it had also issued a warning. Something far larger, far older was watching. And now he would have to decide, not just how to protect the hatchlings, but how to face the truth behind the artifact's power. The hatchlings chirped softly in his lap, a small comfort amid the tension. Caleb looked at the glowing marble, at the dragons surrounding him, at the palace in chaos, and knew one thing with certainty. Whatever came next, he would face it. He would protect them. And he would not fail. The artifact pulsed again, brighter, sending a shaft of golden light across the hall. Shadows shifted. A new, unseen presence stirred beyond the marble seam. Caleb's eyes widened. The test wasn't over. Something waited, watching him. Caleb sank to his knees, the hatchlings still curled against him, their soft warmth radiating through his arms. The golden light of the artifact pulsed gently now, no longer a chaotic storm but a steady, calming rhythm. The silver creature had retreated to the seam, watching, its glowing eyes following every movement. Even the adult dragon above had folded its wings and lowered its massive head, a silent sentinel acknowledging him. He looked down at the smallest hatchling in his lap, the one who had leapt into his arms first. Its tiny claws gripped his sleeve, its amber eyes wide and trusting. Caleb smiled, chest tight with emotion. "You chose me," he whispered, "and I'll keep you safe. Every one of you." A hush fell over the hall. The palace guards, still frozen in shock from the earlier chaos, lowered their weapons. The artifact pulsed again, this time rhythmically, like a heartbeat syncing with the hatchlings. Caleb realized the truth he had felt but hadn't fully understood. The dragons weren't escaping cages because they were mischievous or disobedient, they were seeking trust. They had chosen a guardian, and that guardian was him. He rose slowly, careful not to startle the hatchlings, and took a tentative step toward the open hall. Each tiny dragon followed instinctively, their glowing bodies illuminating the stone floor. The artifact's pulse seemed to guide them, and Caleb felt a surge of connection, an unspoken bond stretching from himself to the hatchlings, to the ancient crystal, and even to the adult dragon above. "Look at them," one of the guards whispered. Another nodded, awe softening the rigid lines of authority on his face. "They're calm." "But how?" Caleb didn't answer. He knew it wasn't magic alone. It was courage, care, and choice. It was humanity, the stubborn, compassionate, defiant spark that refused to bow, even to the impossible. He knelt to scoop another hatchling into his lap, and a small cheer, almost human in its joy, seemed to echo from the artifact. The adult dragon shifted, lowering itself closer to the hall, letting out a soft rumble that resonated through the walls. Caleb froze for a moment, then realized it was waiting for him to make the next move. He extended his arms slightly, allowing the hatchlings to settle around him. One by one they climbed into his lap, onto his shoulders, even onto his head. Caleb's heart swelled. They weren't afraid anymore. They were home. A subtle warmth spread from the artifact, brushing Caleb's cheek like a soft wind. He could feel its approval, its recognition. The silver creature near the seam stepped closer, wings folding as it studied him. Caleb reached out slowly, hand trembling, and the creature nudged his palm with its snout. A tiny hiss of contentment escaped it. Caleb's lips curved into a small laugh. "We did it," he said, voice steady but full of relief. Outside the nursery, the palace stirred. News of the hatchlings' behavior would spread quickly, but Caleb didn't care. The dragons had chosen him, and that choice had changed everything. Guards cautiously approached, but Caleb stepped forward, holding the hatchlings protectively. "They're safe," he said simply. "And they'll stay safe, under my watch." One of the senior palace officials, a stern woman with silver hair, approached slowly. Her eyes softened as she looked at the glowing hatchlings and the radiant artifact. "Janitor," she said, voice low, almost reverent, "you've done something no one else could. You've tamed the wild ones." Caleb shook his head. "Not tamed," he corrected gently. "Trusted. They chose me. I just honored that trust." His eyes swept across the hall, lingering on the artifact. He didn't fully understand its origins, its power, or its intentions, but he had learned something critical. Courage and care mattered more than authority or fear. The artifact pulsed once more, gently, almost like a sigh. The silver creature moved back toward the seam, and the glowing light dimmed, leaving a soft golden shimmer across the hall. Caleb felt the weight of responsibility settle on him, but for the first time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt purposeful. He was a janitor, yes, but now he was also the protector of dragons, of something ancient, of life itself. He looked down at the hatchlings once more. Their tiny eyes blinked up at him, trusting, full of curiosity and warmth. Caleb laughed softly. "Guess this is home now," he said. The hatchlings chirped in response, a sound like tiny bells ringing through the hall. The adult dragon lifted into the air slowly, circling above before landing gracefully on the balcony once more. It let out a soft, approving rumble, and Caleb realized he had earned not only the trust of the hatchlings but also the respect of their greatest guardian. For the first time he felt the quiet pride of triumph, not in battle but in courage, empathy, and unwavering determination. As the sun rose, casting warm light through the tall palace windows, Caleb sat in the nursery, surrounded by hatchlings glowing softly in his lap. The artifact hummed quietly, a pulse of energy connecting him to something far larger than himself. He knew challenges would come again, other mysteries, other threats, but he was ready. And in the deepest corner of the marble wall, where the artifact had stirred, a faint new glow began to shimmer. Caleb felt it, a whispering sense of anticipation like the world itself was watching. The hatchlings stirred, chirping and stretching, unaware of what lay ahead, but Caleb did. He knew that this victory was only the first chapter. He smiled at the little dragons nestled in his arms and whispered, We'll face whatever comes, together. Somewhere deep within the palace, a new pulse began to echo, a heartbeat older than the palace itself, hinting at secrets yet to be revealed. Caleb's eyes widened, heart racing with excitement and dread. The adventure wasn't over. Far from it. And with that, the janitor who had tamed royal dragons knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was only the beginning.